Imposter syndrome is a goddamn bitch. According to Wikipedia, imposter syndrome, also known as imposter phenomenon or imposterism, is a psychological occurrence in which people doubt their skills, talents, or accomplishments, and have a persistent, internalized fear of being exposed as frauds. Despite external evidence of their competence, those experiencing this phenomenon do not believe they deserve their success or luck. For me, it was essentially believing that there was always someone better than you, and that there was nothing that you could do that would be considered, by my definition, better. In reality, it's more often than not false. How this phenomenon is developed can vary from person to person. Mine was developed through my parents. They frequently compared me to my classmates whenever my score was, by their definition, less than perfect. It tanked my self-confidence constantly, and completely altered how I view my work. I would struggle each day to cope with this voice inside my head saying, "Someone is already better than you. You should give up." This voice would constantly nag at me about how I would always need to be better, rushing myself, and often being hypercritical of things that I had just started to learn. The people I would reach out to told me to just deal with it, and just ignore those thoughts. I guess in a way, I felt that I should have just shut up about it entirely. Even though I know for a fact people on a daily basis struggle with this, I felt alone. My imposter syndrome only grew. It even bled over to my love for video games. At times when I see a friend of mine finish a game before me, I'd feel like I wasn't on pace with them. I'd feel like I should have been faster, when really it shouldn't matter at all. And every instance that seemed to trigger my imposter syndrome pushed the idea that I shouldn't be loved or accepted for what I am. The voice again would say, "Who wants to be with a loser who's super slow?" It may explain why I play games that have been out for a long time, one of which happened to be P3P, Persona 3 Portable. I already love P4G, Persona 4 Golden, so I thought it would be a great idea to experience the previous entry in the Persona series. Not wanting to open the can of worms that were the AI-controlled party members in P3 FES, Persona 3 FES, and in vanilla Persona 3, a friend recommended me to play P3P instead. While there were mods for direct party controls for P3 FES, I didn't want to deal with that, and instead opted to just play P3P, as Femsi, the female main character. Enjoying my time with the game, I stumbled onto the Hangman Arcana, Maiko Ohashi. Once a friend had told me to get her the weird takoyaki and Mad Bowl, I spent my time progressing her social link. It's worth mentioning that social links are my favorite part of Persona 3 through to Persona 5. P4G's myriad of social links helped shape me, having a great, positive impact on my personal growth. It changed me as a person. So doing P3P's social links was kind of a given for me, considering my experience with P4Gs. And then, I met Akinari Kamiki, Persona 3's Sun Arcana. When I met Akinari for the first time, his opening remarks came across extremely negative. Those words echo the same type of language I would use.
Unless you're in my situation, you can't understand how I feel.
Obviously without the threat of an incurable hereditary disease slowly killing me. The more I talked with him and listened to his situation, it was like hearing my past self. I no longer felt alone at a time where I felt that I couldn't share my issues with others. The more I got to know Akinari, the more I wanted to spend time with him. The biggest obstacle to that was that his social link was only available on Sunday, so I dedicated any free time during the day, on Sunday, directly to him. What is with my favorite social links in Persona 3, 4, and 5 all being Sunday bound? In Akinari's case, he was dying, wanting to make something of himself, as he couldn't seem to find his purpose in life because of his illness.
Of course not. No one could. I don't even know. I mean, I understand the reason I'm dying, but what even is the meaning of it? There isn't any meaning to life that I can find, so perhaps I'm not missing all that much. I wish I could run away.
Those initial words held a bitter taste in my mouth. I'd be reminded of whenever someone attempted to reach out to me, as I struggled to deal with my imposter syndrome. His demeanor and tone mirrored my own, often musing on how horrible my situation was. He and I saw no meaning in our lives. I became accustomed to people telling me to just get over it. I had to deal with my problems internally several times by myself. Alone. It was an infuriating experience to constantly relive.
Nobody treats me like a normal person. Not even my friends or family. They all keep their distance and say, "Oh, what a poor soul."
And why is this social link in particular so special to me, you ask? It's because, from Akinari's rank 6 and onward, he gradually writes a story, telling its narrative and message to the protagonist, who is the inspiration for the story. The story is about a pink alligator who struggles to catch prey. Being easy to spot because of his color, it was a huge detriment to his way of life. The only friend he makes is a bird who he accidentally eats. Realizing what happens to his only friend, the alligator refuses to eat anything from then on. Taken a whole by crippling depression, the alligator weeps without end. He eventually drowned in his tears, which became a sparkling lake surrounded by beautiful flowers and a tree that bore delicious fruit. It became a wonderful spot for the other forest animals to rest and relax. They were completely unaware it was the pink alligator from before that had created such scenery, and that he had passed away in doing so. That's where Akinari's story ends. Interestingly, the story does get a reference in P4G, specifically in two social links, Kanji's rank 6 and Adachi's rank 5, meaning the story was published, which I thought was an amazing touch. At the time, I thought it was some made-up story in universe, as P4G was my first Persona game, but it made me very happy to recognize his story after my first playthrough of P4G. As Akinari continued to write his story, it was depressing, but it was also how I viewed myself. The ending brought me to tears. Its message resonated with me greatly. Akinari had managed to find a purpose in his life with the limited time he had. I was in pain. I was running away from my problems that I had kept hidden for so long. If anything, I was just trying to pretend I was cursed, and I felt I couldn't do anything about my problems. I was practically avoiding my issues altogether because I thought no one would understand, and playing through the Sun Arcana, I felt like I wasn't alone anymore. Pink Alligator in the story reminded me of who I was. I believed I was cursed. I felt that I couldn't do anything right because I couldn't meet the expectations that were placed upon me growing up. If I wasn't perfect, why be with me? I might as well die. The loneliness that came with being trapped in a tangle of harsh expectations fucked with me for years. What my parents did caused me to spiral, comparing myself to others, expecting perfection and meeting lofty expectations. Continuing to adulthood, I yearned for hope in my life, a purpose, something.
It's only natural for those dwelling in the depths of darkness to yearn for the light.
Even though it's been years since I played P3P, seeing Akinari again in P3R put a big smile on my face. Even if I can't fulfill said purpose or not be remembered, I'm glad to experience whatever it may be. I have to keep going. After all, I'm happy to be alive, to have been born. Before, I hated that I was born. I thought that I was nothing more than a burden to everyone, that I could never be good enough, that I had to constantly be better in hopes of even deserving love from my friends. No, that's not it. That perspective was nothing more than a falsehood that I had formed over my early years. My outlook on life has changed and evolved a lot since then. Maybe something good will happen. I don't know for sure if something will, but it's a comforting thought. Sometimes that's all I need to get up in the morning. When P3R, Persona 3 Reload, came out, I immediately focused on Akinari's social link. When my academic social stat didn't meet the requirement to progress his social link, I spent any spare time to raise my academics in order to rank him up as soon as possible.
The meaning of my life isn't something I should spend my time on. It's more about how I was able to affect others. So, for me, or you, or anyone, just simply existing gives our lives meaning. People can't survive without help from others. We all depend on one another.
Just seeing him makes my eyes well up with tears. If this man was real, I'd give him the biggest hug and thank him for helping me with something I felt no one could ever understand, one that I just had to deal with all alone.
I'm so grateful to have met you. It seems so insignificant, but maybe there was some meaning in it for both of us. Thank you. In the end, I'm glad that I was born.
So thank you, Akinari. I'm glad to have met you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for 100 subscribers. And thank you to Steve for drawing the amazing thumbnail art and the time-lapse video that you're seeing right now.
I have to go now. Maybe someday we'll meet again. I'd like that.
Stay awesome.